No again. I wonder how many viewers would disagree if I were to assert that there is widespread corruption among MPs, judges, the media, and the police. Not many, I'm guessing. Suppose I made a placard saying this and then went to where there were a lot of police and shouted at them that they were scum. What would be a proportionate response, do you think? I thought no violence is involved. It would be more of an irritation than anything else. Few people like to be told publicly that they are corrupt, or for that matter, do they like being called scum. Still, I've seen and heard a good deal worse during demonstrations and political protests, and usually the police in this country have simply remained good humoured and ignored that kind of thing. I remember seeing people protesting against the war in Vietnam in the early 1970s, and the things they shouted at the police. Fascist pigs, reactionary lick spittles. That was probably the most polite things that were being said to them. In those days, though, the police were not politicised and they simply ignored the insults. These were angry and aggressive young men shouting rude things, but nobody cared. How very different was the case when a 61-year-old grandfather in poor health faced the police line in Rotherham on August the 4th and shouted "scum" at the police while holding his crudely lettered placard claiming that there was a lot of corruption in this country's establishment. His feet didn't touch the ground, and he was whisked off at once to a cell. 2 weeks later he was sentenced to 2 years and 8 months in prison, doing just what I have described. 2 months later he hanged himself. This kind of thing is expected in countries like China, where pro-democracy demonstrators are targeted by the police, and it's not uncommon either in Iran or Russia. But this happened in England. Peter Lynch's funeral is being held today, and many of us feel that he had a very raw deal indeed, and that sending a man of that age to prison for so long just for holding up a placard and being rude to the police was outrageous. There are many others currently in prison for much the same kind of offence, and a lot of people feel that it's time that an amnesty was called and that it is admitted that those ferociously long sentences for trifling offences were a brutal overreaction. Sadly, this is very unlikely, and the police will almost certainly behave in that same way in the future, but only when they're dealing with those who they're supposed to be belong to the far right.